Nerds International proudly presents...
Did you hear about that thing with Bethesda?
No? What?
So they released a tabletop supplement for D&D 5e set in the world of Skyrim. And then it turned out to be entirely plagiarised from something. I forget what it's called. It's called The Black Road. It was an old D&D module. And these guys, it was this guy writer called Paige Leapman and Ben Heisler. They immediately noticed that it was plagiarised and went to Twitter and were like, by the way, this is exactly the same. And they copy and pasted parts of both documents and they were exactly the fucking same. Like, literally, it's like the worst form of plagiarism.
Stop it, Bethesda, what are they doing?
I know, and one of them was like they even had like the same name as the person in the original document. And it was like some really weird fantasy name like Court of the Law. And it was like, yeah, you're not gonna like by accident make up that same name. It was a
coincidence. Is that their first foray into RPGs?
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
and they fucked
get
it.
Out of it.
It's so
what
funny,
are they doing?
I know. Foolish. They since pulled it from their website, but you can still find it. So if you want to play a plagiarised adventure, dear listener, do it.
I laugh if it's like you buy it and it gets delivered and you're like, why is there a sticker over the Bethesda sign stickerised? And you peel it back and it's got D&D written underneath.
Yeah. The whole thing is just like bits crossed out and then
stuck. Rewritten.
All right, let's begin.
Let's begin.
Welcome to the 3T RPG podcast. I'm Harrison Hunt, and with me is Nick Lamley.
Hello.
This is a podcast all about tabletop RPGs. Oh my god, it's been a while, hasn't it?
It has been a while. Lot's been going on.
Because we just ran a convention. So,
a
very small convention, but a good one nonetheless. And basically, we were supposed to record an episode that weekend, but we were too busy being drunk.
Yeah, we were. And then obviously, we started off Dirt Boys, I believe, after that, did we not?
I think it was episode 2.
Oh, 2, sorry, yeah. So then we had that, and then,
So shit, sorry, listeners.
Schedule got mixed up because of the con, but
you know what was the con was really good, right? It's a Savage Worlds convention, the UK's only Savage Worlds convention, and the smell of guff by the end of it, because everyone was eating shit food, drinking beer,
all in this. Well, the first day, everyone just got like heated up in this little room. No, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't that cold. It wasn't that warm this time, but I think just an enclosed space that's not very well ventilated.
Every 5 seconds, I heard somebody going. And James, who we'll get to in a second, he was standing just by the door. You know, there was like a back door,
just
like
let
a fire
him rip.
exit. Yeah, because he was like, no, look, I have a lot of gas to let out. I'm just going to stand by the door. And he just stood there. And I saw you were supposed to be playing the game, and every time he needed to roll the dice, he walked back to the table, roll it, and then go back to the door and fart out.
Imagine if you was the poor person walking down the street and all you saw was like a door opening as you walk past.
Oh man. Well, we did, that con, it does, strange things do happen. Last year we had an old guy wander in, and he was like, is this the hospital? Do you remember?
I don't think so, mate. What happened this year? Well,
it was Fartgate.
It was Fartgate, wasn't it? Yeah.
And Notre Dame burnt down. I don't think we're responsible for that, but
I'm not.
It did happen at the same time, so,
Is it a coincidence? So how do you feel about having the new royal prince being named after yourself?
Oh, it's good, man.
Good honour?
Good. Yeah, well, I did ask them,
We sent that little letter in, didn't we?
And now he's called, what is it?
His name is...
Archie Harrison.
Archie Harrison.
Yeah, good times.
He's a double-barreled name. So he's got Archie Harrison and then Harrelson.
His name's Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, that's the new prince, everybody.
But anyway, speaking of James is he's taking leave of these main episodes from now on, but he is still going to be in a Dirt Boy Blues, and so he's still going to appear in our logo because he is obviously a mainstay in the actual plays, and he's really awesome. So
absolutely.
Yeah. But other than that, you're back to me and Nick now.
Oh,
so gutted.
The old guard.
So, today, segments. We got feedback side, we got what you slaying, we got main subject, which this time is going to be running a great sandbox game. And then we got what dat, dragging or blagging, followed by your electro letters.
Oh, baby.
Should we do some feedback?
Let's do it. Let's feed that back.
The feedback side. The feedback side. Yes, bitch, the feedback side. It's the feedback section. Yeah, we take your comments and read them out. Yeah. So we got a lot of feedback, and this guy Justin Roman, he knows his stuff. He knows
what's up, doesn't he?
He says, you guys are the funniest podcast I've ever heard.
Yes.
We might be the only podcast he's ever heard, so we win by default.
Yeah, it might be like 10, but...
Yeah. And Dirt Boy Blues, our new actual play, people are liking it. People are out there giving the praise.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody, Deeth9000 says, this is truly sublime, makes me want to run some Cyberpunk ASAP. Superfuse9000, so the whole 9000 family have come out.
Yeah, they're all there.
He says, oh my god, I love you guys, you're the best and play the best. Much love.
Nice. Thanks, Superfuse.
And ironically, this guy on Reddit called Non-Redditor3 says, entertaining as always, although I still don't get the Gary Busey thing. Neither do we, mate.
No.
You know, when he enters into a game, it's a very spiritual experience.
Yeah, we don't write it; it writes itself.
Exactly. I just channeled Busey through the medium of games.
So thank you, Gary.
And then we got one from James Bonnert. He says, still killing it, guys, with the Cyber Sprawl episode 1. So he wasn't a fan of episode 2. Any chance you're bound for Gen Con this year? You know, that probably not. No.
No.
I've only heard bad things about Gen Con, honestly.
Yeah. It's
always
like a cesspit.
You know, people getting chucked out for fighting, like way too many games of D&D and not anything else. I don't know. This is what I've always heard.
Very far away. I mean, why go to Gen Con when you got Savage Con?
Exactly. It's way better. It's way bigger.
It's way bigger than Gen Con.
We had at least 15 people out of this, yeah.
Yeah.
So then we recently, if listeners you don't know this, Nick and I wrote an adventure called Whacked in the Wicket. The layout was done by the famous Mornay, Mornay Sharp, and Sid Andrews picked that up and he says, I have to thank Nick and Harrison for Whacked in the Wicket adventure. I'll be adapting it and running it in my Savage Worlds Eberron campaign in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So the adventure's a real-world adventure where you play as posh knobs forced to do an art heist by a gangster.
Yeah.
And he's putting it in his fantasy game.
Why the hell not? Versatile, if nothing else.
Exactly. So Jimmy the Shoe, who's the main villain of the thing, is now a halfling crime boss, and there is a Lamoureux Fine Arts Gallery in the city of Sharn. So that's pretty cool. So
yeah, that's wicked.
Little halfling crime boss.
And I think we've had a play report come through actually, but that was only like yesterday, so obviously that'll be in that. Maybe we'll read that out in the next one, see how we got on.
Sounds good.
Yes. Thanks, Sid.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, we recently released an hour of fantasy gaming music for your RPGs.
Your ambience.
Exactly, and that is on our YouTube channel, so go and check that out. And the best comment on all of that was somebody said, I was half expecting this to just be a podcast episode. So he knows.
Surprise!
Yeah, we can't be trusted because we always label things what they aren't.
Well, yeah, we've had a couple of complaints like that. This is not family games.
Like, what? No. It was somebody complained about the Family Games episode and said you're supposed to be talking about family games, and you said the F word loads of times.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, we're like,
well, you didn't listen to it because it was not about family.
We've never spoken about family games because we have no family.
There you go. That's what it is. They abandoned us ever since we started playing RPGs.
Cat games, different story.
And obviously we've released the Lamentations of the Flame Princess campaign diary,
which is cracking, I must say. Being a listener of that and not being involved in it, it's very, very, very entertaining. Thank you very much for that. I've really been enjoying that, mate.
Yeah, well, Ian Schlom said he doesn't usually listen to campaign diaries, but the sound effects, music and delivery have let me really appreciate this. Thanks for the work you put in. So cheers, mate.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
It's very good.
That's basically an extended advert for all of the stuff on our channel, basically, but fuck it, go and listen to it. You might like it. We got APs, we got campaign diaries.
It's just nice to have nice comments now. Back in the old days, we'd be scratching for feedback, or normally it was like, fuck off.
Yeah, you know what? I actually miss it but that was why we started doing feedback side in the first place.
Because of the negative stuff.
It was on the Street Fighter episode where the guest that we had on really dropped the ball and didn't do any research.
Didn't do any research, yeah. And then Reddit just went crazy.
God, they were mental, didn't they? They hated us.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
But that's enough for feedback. Let's go on to what we've been slaying.
Oh yeah.
And have one of these. Oi, yeah? What you slaying? Okay, so obviously we've mentioned SavageCon already. Great convention, come next year.
Please come next year. It was. We are looking next year. We're looking to have a different venue so we can host both days at the same place.
Yeah, because the pub was a bit shit this year.
Yeah, so we're going to try and do that. And ideally, if we could do it in a hotel, kind of like Con on the Cob kind of style, where people can stay in the hotel and game at the same place. Brilliant. So watch this space with next year's one, but we're looking to get a bit bigger.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, the Lamentations campaign that's ongoing at the moment, we're not going to be really mentioning this on the podcast in an effort to keep the What You Slaying segment down, because it always comprises of half the fucking episode.
Yeah.
So now we're just going to use this segment to talk about stuff we've bought and extracurricular games.
There you go. Perfect.
So, as I mentioned to you in real life, Nick, I've been playing Operation Freak Show.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah, so this is a Savage Worlds setting. I think it was actually pre-deluxe, and essentially you play superpowered soldiers.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what war it's supposed to be in, but we played it during the Vietnam War.
Okay.
And we were American soldiers, and we all had these different powers.
GIs.
Yeah, it was so good. This was run by Uncle Jay, one of our listeners. Well, the cool thing is that obviously it uses the superpowers companion, and you're really, really high-powered, like incredibly high-powered. So we had a guy that could turn into a giant, a bloke that could turn into a pile of mud, and then we had like this guy called the Vermin Lord who sent rats and bugs out.
Party, do you?
And he was like, he would send like these bug scouts out and attack people with big balls of flies and shit. He was really cool.
He sounds fun.
And I played a guy called the Blue Lunatic. He was originally going to be called the Incredible Sulk.
Oh,
His power was going to be that he cried and flooded things. But I changed it to, he's basically Psycho Mantis from Metal Gear, so he had all these psychic powers. He could, float using telepathy, so he could lift himself up. Telekinesis, sorry. And then he could also read people's thoughts or inject fear into their minds. So all the horrible stuff he saw in Vietnam, he'd be like, have a bit of that. And then people would just be like, But the telekinesis is so high powered that you can do things like, there was like 3 enemies in a row, and I'd tear a tree out of the floor and smash it down onto them using my brain.
You ever seen the film Jacob's Ladder?
No, I haven't.
Just check it out.
Is it like that?
It's about a I don't want to give it's a great horror film from the old days, but it's fantastic, and it's about it's about Vietnam and post-traumatic and all things going horrible, and it's
I probably should have watched
horror.
that,
mate. If that honestly, that film that would have been great for this character. But
it was wicked, and for example, we come across a minefield. Eric would scout it out with the Vermin Lord. He'd like send.
Was that Eric's character?
Yeah.
Vermin Lord. Oh,
yeah,
man.
and he'd send his bugs out. We'd see the mines, and then I'd pick them up telepathically and like throw them 100 miles.
I'd hate to think of the enemies you were fighting. These guys sound incredible.
Well, at the time, I only played the first 2 sessions, sadly, but at the time we were fighting Vietnam soldiers and we just tore them to shreds.
I bet.
And the very last sort of episode that I was in, we got to the end and we saw these like weird bug people that also had powers in the Vietnam woods, and it was like, it got really weird and trippy, and it was so cool, and I was gutted because I missed the next couple of sessions, but I just wanted to say, check out Operation Freak Show.
It sounds pretty amazing, yeah.
Oh, it's well good, man. I'm totally going to run it at some point.
Please do. Is it a published? Is it published?
Yeah, I think it's old and hard to get hold of, but you could probably find a PDF.
Excellent.
On drive-thru or something.
It sounds cracking.
We also played some 50 Fathoms. This is with our Sunday morning game group. But the funny thing about this is like a pirate setting for Savage Worlds, right? And I've played 50 Fathoms twice. I've run it once, and I basically run Rifts, but started at 50 Fathoms. And then, this time we basically were sailing along on our boat, and suddenly we touched this gem, and we're in a futuristic world where all the water's gone. So it's like, basically, I think the story behind 50 Fathoms is that it's flooded by the water in our world that got taken out. So we went to our world, and it was all flooded, I think. I think that's what it was very hard to follow. It was nuts.
Was it Gary?
It was Gary.
There you go.
It,
Yeah, understandable.
And it ended with us in a fucking UFO, right, fighting robots and aliens. Of course. And shit. It was like, it was completely mental. Gary was really tired when he was running the last session, none of us could follow what was going on. But I was cracking up the whole time.
Okay, you're in a UFO now, and
we just found it in the desert, and then. There was a bit where there was these women that wanted to be saved, but they were amongst all of this like mutated, radiated shit in the wasteland. And so we were like, we don't want to take them back with us. They're mutated. Yeah, we're going to get ill. And Gary was like, he kept on saying, the women say, oh, you're not going to take us. We're dying over here. Yeah, we're going to die. And like Eric just went, look, just tell me, do you want me to take the women? Fine. I'll take the grotty women if I absolutely have to. Yeah, and so we ended up taking them back. And then it was just mental. But yeah, if you play 50 Fathoms, with Gary, be aware that...
Don't. It's not 50 Fathoms.
It's not 50 Fathoms. I mean, I sort of made my guy as a pirate, he was the singing sword. He was an opera singer turned assassin who was like one of the bodyguards for the ship.
Yeah.
And I took the edge. I forget what it's called, but it's like a rope monkey, I think it's called.
Yeah,
You're good at swinging around on the deck of ships.
Yeah.
Didn't come up once.
Oh, what?
Well, I tried to use it once while swinging off a tree, but it was a palm tree, so obviously.
And then he was on a spaceship, so he was fucked.
Yeah, exactly. So it was absolutely great fun. And
Is that the one that had the goat?
yeah, I had a goat called Expando Buttholio because that I didn't name it, but
Because of course.
yeah, I saw it on the map and we played on virtual tabletop, and obviously you can label things on there, and it was called Expando Buttholio.
Oh man!
One of the funniest things was that I took Eric's mini. His character was called Arnaud, and I took his mini and I relabeled it to Mong Man. And Gary, in the last session, kept forgetting what his real name was, and he's like, he was narrating what happens, and he goes, right. So Harrison, you come in, you stab the robot, and then Mong Man comes round the side.
Mong Man's there.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, Gary spends so much time on virtual tabletop.
Yeah,
He's
he
like
does.
a maestro now, isn't he?
Yeah, his maps are amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, check that out because he's got a show, the Murder Hobo Show, on YouTube, and he gives tutorials
Yep.
on virtual tabletop and shows off his cool maps, and they're genuinely cool.
What's that weird video? Remember we went through that phase of putting weird videos on YouTube? Don't the one with an egg?
Oh yeah, there was one. Yeah, well, that's a good treat if you subscribe to him. There's one where he's sitting in his van and he eats an egg, like a boiled egg whole, and then puts sensual music over it. Weird channel.
We love you, Gary.
Yeah, totally. So that is it for what I've been slaying. You done any extracurricular stuff?
No, I've just been revising. It's been incredibly boring recently.
Oh yeah, because you've been at work
Doing
and shit.
exams and stuff, boring stuff. So yeah, not really. No.
No.
Sorry.
Good.
Sorry.
Now, with that, let's get on to the main subject: running a great sandbox game.
Fuck yeah.
Main. Subject. Magic. Main. Subject. Tokyo. Main. Subject.
We're playing Lamentations of the Flame Princess at the moment,
yeah?
which is a sandbox-style campaign where the players can do anything they want.
What?
oh, what you say?
What?
for this episode, Nick will be playing a moron.
Who has no idea of anything.
No, so obviously recently I've been running that, which is a sandbox game. In the past, I've run GURPS, which was a galaxy-wide sandbox game.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
then you've just run Gen Lab Alpha.
That was
which,
sandboxy.
Yeah, exactly.
My zombie game was kind of sandboxy.
Exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
we could do anything we wanted in that. In fact, we did just dick around for a lot of that
For
game.
a lot of it, yeah. Fallout as well, hugely sandboxy game that we played, run
Yep.
by Sean.
Totally. So we've played and run a couple between
Yeah.
us, and we think that we can come up with some tips for a great sandbox game. So while there is absolutely nothing wrong with a decent linear curated type game, the sandbox is a really, really great way to immerse players into a world or a region in an RPG, and it can be a really good way to add layers of verisimilitude into games.
Ooh.
I learned a new word, Nick.
Do you know what? I saw that yesterday and was like, I couldn't even say it.
Basically means suspension of disbelief, like feeling like you're there, immersion, you know what I mean?
Immersion, so verisimilitude. Very
But,
nice.
as Nick very rightly pointed out, for those that aren't aware, what is a sandbox? The RPG sandbox is a style of game where very few limitations are placed on the players. They're given an area, usually a region, and they can do whatever they want and play in whatever way they choose, allowing the characters to roam and change an imaginary world at will. In contrast to a more linear type of play, sandboxes emphasise exploration of a world and allows the players to choose their own goals. But I've heard from a great many GMs that they find this idea daunting or they think it will be too much work. So today, as I mentioned, we're going to give our tips on how to run a great sandbox RPG style campaign. And I've also collated some tips from other sources, and this will be a good guide for anyone wishing to run a more free open world game.
Yeah, and we'll show you that it's not that scary at all.
No, it can actually be a lot more
Easier,
and
yeah,
freeing
absolutely.
than running any other type of game.
Yeah.
So, step one, you got to start with planning.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you got to do. There is planning involved. Sorry, there is some work. All right.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
But while a sandbox game is open and relies heavily on player input and flexibility, there must be some degree of planning. So the players don't just show up and start to play. The characters first need somewhere to adventure, obviously. So in the case
Yeah, just
of...
in this big white room. What's going on?
And then you go, oh yeah, I see a pub. Then it appears in the room.
Yeah.
In the case of like a gangster or cyberpunk game, the region that you play in can be a city or a county or a state, something like that. You know what I mean? Because we played Wise Guys and that was set in Vegas, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But it was like a sandbox type game.
Yeah.
In a fantasy game, it's usually a region with
region.
vast unexplored areas. pretty much same goes for like a post-apocalyptic or sci-fi. Really.
Yeah, all works.
Because a lot of what these games are about is like discovery, exploring.
You just need a central point in which it can start.
Yeah, I mean, because like in the Lamentations game, I've given you information about key areas.
Yes.
But you guys, your main adventuring hub is the city of Domvay, and that's where you guys, you venture out of, do shit, and come back to town, and that's where you guys live.
We've got like a home base, essentially, that everything kind of revolves around. But yeah, the main bit is that's us in the middle, and then everything else is unexplored as of yet.
Yeah, typically that's what it's like, and. Really, the game's region is whatever you think you can handle, but creating or picking the right one can be difficult.
Yeah.
And the reason I say it can be whatever you can handle is because even if it's a small town and you'd never venture outside of it, there are going to be loads of places that you don't know about, loads of buildings and things like this, and as the story can evolve. The first ever game I run wasn't necessarily a sandbox, but it was very open in the way that you guys were able to solve anything. And that was just set in one city, and it was a relatively small one too. So basically, I was going to sort of mention a couple of pre-packaged ones as well, because you don't have to make your own world from scratch. You can pick one, like an existing one.
Exactly, yeah. So if you like the idea and the model, but again, don't want to put all the work into creating one, or just want to try it out straight away, then there's some pre-done stuff that a sandbox.
Well, GenLab's a good example.
Absolutely.
That's a sandbox, and it's actually relatively small in comparison to most game worlds.
Absolutely,
but it's quite dense and packed full of shit. And in addition, if you're looking at some sort of fantasy thing, the ones that I can think of off my head are things like the Purple Planet, the Shudder Mountains is one for DCC as well. That's a really good sandbox thing, and if you get the box set, you get the hex map, you get the primer on the world, all of this stuff. So
yeah.
It's
what
really
about modern? Isn't East Texas University sandboxy?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're the central hub in that is the school, right?
Exactly.
And you have to go back, live a normal school life while investigating horrors,
Which
and
can
shit
be
like
in
this.
the school or outside. So yeah,
Totally.
Yeah.
And Wise Guys is another good one, up and coming Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Just funded, just ended, and that's a modern gangster one that's sandboxy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is perfect. And basically anything like that, if you're picking one, just try to find one that is an open thing. I mean, even with the Purple Planet for DCC, the map that it comes with for the players to fill in, it's basically a blank sheet of paper with a city in the middle, and that's it.
And the rest is up to you.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And so typically with that you'll have like a hex map or a square map, whatever you want, and the players, as they explore, they fill in the map.
Absolutely.
They're responsible for filling in and doing it, because it adds a layer of immersion. And
I massively recommend the ChessX reversible battle maps.
Yes, so this episode is sponsored by ChessX.
Yeah.
No, it isn't.
No, it's not. It would be nice if it was.
Please, honestly,
do.
ChessX, get in touch.
We love you and your maps.
Let's talk about some worlds that we've run. So, GenLab Alpha. With that, it was specifically the world in general. How did you find having to learn about somebody else's creation and then running it?
It was. It's good. You do have to read. You do have to read and read over. And what I found was what I personally did, which was quite good, because with GenLab, because it's like as you said before, quite an enclosed space. Quite literally enclosed. You're prisoners within this kind of large kind of environment. You do need to understand the politics of each tribe, purely because they are fundamental in the whole game.
Yep.
Depending on who you are, what animal race you are, and where you're travelling to, the social politics and stuff have a huge impact on that. And so what I did personally was I got a cheat sheet. So I got a piece of paper and I wrote down all the tribes, and I wrote their kind of general consensus towards outsiders, who they hate, who they like, and who they might currently be at war with.
That's a great idea, because cheat sheets are really, really handy for this type of thing, especially if you're learning somebody else's setting, because, you'll fill in the blanks a lot of time, but there are things that are important to the way that setting's going to run.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
A good example of that is one I've just been reading called Barrow Maze, and it's a really cool thing, and I won't spoil it too much, because I might use it.
You're in a wheelbarrow.
Yeah, it's a wheelbarrow maze. No, the thing about that one was as soon as you open the book, one of the first things it tells you is some of the key towns in this place called Eric, I think the region is called, and then in that you have people's religions and how each religion acts with the other.
That's it. Yeah.
Each town has like the key individuals in there.
You've got to have that social structure.
Yeah, and I think it can be important, because the world has to feel alive. They have to have a lot of shit to interact with.
Yeah.
But I did the same thing in GURPS.
Yeah.
I had every planet obviously I didn't have every planet completely mapped out, but I had, you know, the space station. There was a stock market, and I had the prices for each region.
That's right.
At the
Yeah.
start of
Because
play.
that was hugely different depending on which planet we went to. Was another thing. It was the commodities and the trade and the markets and stuff. Like certain places, fuel would be exceptionally high, and other places it'd be cheaper depending on what the type of planet was.
Yeah,
and that was really good as well.
Yeah, this was like hard sci-fi, and the way I basically went about making the world was essentially just making something very fantastical, hard sci-fi, and something relatively believable.
Yeah.
That was basically it, and populating it with interesting things. They don't necessarily have to be things that are adventure hooks or things that the PCs are gonna interact with massively, but you have to have some groundwork there.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we had a planet that was called Jurassic Duck, and I don't think there was much on there that was of any note.
Oh, it was a failed theme park
Exactly.
that had blown up,
But
and
the
it was
fact
a
that
whole...
it was called that,
Yeah.
we had to go to it. There's
Yeah.
no two questions about it. We're going to Jurassic Duck.
Yeah, that was one of the things, is that, yeah, it was a comedy campaign essentially, but we well, it was gonzo, I'd put it.
No, I wouldn't say comedy. It was equal measures of comedy and bleak and
Yeah.
dark and black humour. It was fantastic.
Totally, but yeah, all you need to really do is populate your world with interesting shit. That's basically it, and make it
Different.
try to feel realistic and make every place unique in some way.
Yes.
If, for example, I mean, really, really easy example is if you're in a fantasy campaign and there is a city in the desert. Think about what type of food they eat. Think about who the head honcho at that
What
place
type of
is.
clothes they're going to wear? Because they're in the desert all the time, so the chances are they're going to be in, like, you know, long kind of capey style protective clothes. They might
Yeah,
wear goggles, whatever, you know.
Yeah, and that's just it, because then when the players go there and interact with it, it has to feel, in a big sandbox campaign, it has to feel like all that shit was already there.
Absolutely.
And 90% of the time you're going to be coming up with stuff on the fly based on what you know, but you have to make it believable.
Yeah, of course you do. And what your characters interact with as well.
But yeah, that's basically it for sort of creating a world map, and a lot of those points we'll get back onto later. But
Yeah.
one of the things that I find is really, really, really key when coming up with a good sandbox world, or, you know, playing in one or running one, randomness is really, really important. In a sandbox, it's impossible, as we mentioned, to prepare for everything the players are going to do. You know, you can't make 6 cities worth of shit, but you can make a general outline.
Yeah, all with their own things going on in that. To remember all that and kind of contain all that information in your head is impossible.
It would be impossible.
So don't try it, because it's there's an easier way.
So on the one hand, you know, like sandboxes can be really difficult for GMs who don't or have trouble thinking on their feet.
Yeah.
But this is where, like, as I mentioned, random things are the absolute king. So, for example, a lot of sandbox like pre-made things will contain random encounters within them.
Tables, all sorts. Yeah.
But like basically nick some from the internet and add them into your game for everything.
Yeah.
Like, just in case, because I guarantee you there's going to be a time where you get stuck and the players go, "What is this guy's name?" And you go, John. And
When the last guy called John is like John 2.
yeah, exactly. So the thing is, if you have a big list of random names, and when the PCs meet one, roll randomly on it and then cross it off.
Such a good idea. So that's exactly what I did in my zombie game back in the day. It was like, you know, it's too hard to think of names on the spot, so put a bunch of names on a piece of paper in front of you. Every time they meet someone new, like you said, that's the guy's name. Scratch him off of that one, and then put him on another piece of paper so you remember.
Yeah, in preparation for my Lamentations campaign, I basically nicked a bunch of different random tables from all over the place.
Everywhere.
Yeah, and I got so I've got D100 mostly wilderness random events. So,
Nice. Yeah.
That's essentially something I nicked off a website. I'll credit it in the description. I got D20 interesting local details. That's from Lion and Dragon RPG,
Nice.
and it's a medieval one, so that's pretty handy.
Yeah.
And then from the same game, I got D12 local economies, settlement rulers, and that was basically it. But the other resource that I use a lot is Vornheim, which is a really good setting book for Lamentations, and in that, it's got so many good random tables. One for first names and last names, and a general demeanour of that person.
Yeah.
So these are people that you might meet in a city, and it's got random pub names as well.
That's right.
And that was pretty funny, because the one we got was horrible. Do you remember when I rolled on
God.
it? And I was like, you head down to Lowtown and you see a pub called the Frigid Cousin.
Everyone went, what?
Yeah, I was
It's like the only place that's still open.
yeah, and I was like, it's a horribly named pub, because the inside, and even that name gave me a little
something
hint.
to work with. Yeah, exactly. Straight away, you've kind of got an idea in your head.
Yeah, and I was rolling randomly on a like a table of names, and I came up with Zome Crundleshire, which was one of them.
Yeah.
Which is a crazy name, but and you've got like the mannerisms of the person as well. So there was a bit where they went to a shop, like a weapon shop. And I just had I rolled on this table, and it was the bloke in the shop. He has a canary which he keeps in a cage, and he talks to it.
Nice.
And that's it. And it's just a nice little interesting detail that's added in there.
And you work off that, didn't you?
Yeah, you couldn't have come up with it. You work off of it.
Yeah.
And like a lot of times, things that you see in real life, you think that's so weird.
Yeah.
Why is that there? You know, or that guy's got a weird name, or that bloke had some weird mannerisms, and things like this will help it seem weird without you just forcing it in there.
Exactly.
But the thing is, as well, like, you've got to make random events seem natural. Mm-hmm. And I was going to, like, mention a point, like, for example, now the world that we have in our Lamentations game is at war, right?
Yes.
So if, for example, you went up to, like, an area in the land, and I rolled on the table and it was like, oh, you got attacked by a band of orcs. And it's like, hang on, but orcs don't roam around anywhere near here. Their nest is nowhere nearby. Well, what you do then is you either say, I know, that's weird, isn't it? And you give it a reason for them being there. Are they looking for something? Yeah. Are they doing something? Are they looking for someone?
Yeah.
Yeah. But in addition to that, you could just change it. Instead of orcs, they're something soldiers from the enemy army.
Yeah, mercenaries, whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And that just makes it so much more believable.
The encounter works. You just got to literally edit it slightly on the fly, which is easy. You roll on the table, you get your random event, you look at it, all right, it doesn't quite work, what can I quickly snip and change just to make it work for this one?
Or just re-roll.
Or just roll again.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no mad rush, is there? Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of these things are really easy to use anyway. Like, I've got all of this shit printed on like a sheet for each specific thing. Perfect. So I just roll a D100, look at the list, boom. You need a name, you need whatever, you need an event. And a lot of these things will make your world feel alive, because the players will be roaming through, and then they'll see things and think, well, there must be a reason for this being here, you know, as long as you narrate it well.
Yeah.
But speaking of random events, there's a little upcoming product. Shameless plug time.
Shameless plugs here.
Nick and I have been working on a little document.
Oh, we're very proud of this.
Yeah. What's the document?
Our little document is our first little attempt at writing something together under our own banner.
Yeah.
And this is 78 Hamlet happenings.
And in 78 Hamlet happenings, why 78? Nobody has a D78.
Why the hell is there 78? Well, I'll tell you why there's 78. Reason being is that not only is this a toolbox, essentially, it's a one with a cool little kind of nuance to it, and that is that it works in conjunction with a tarot deck.
Yeah, so you essentially, the way it works is that in this, it's 78 different random events that can happen in your town, probably the main town, to make it feel more alive.
Yeah.
And you pull a card, and based on the meaning of that actual tarot card, there's an event that happens.
That's it.
And they're pretty cool. So all of the 22 major arcana, the 22 major arcana relate to the most major events. Big situations. Yeah, there's one where a mind-bending alien takes over the town. That's one of the crazy ones. There's one where the town drunk falls into a well
and poisons the water supply
because he's really diseased. Yeah. And now there's a new plague in town.
Yeah, goat men take over.
Yeah, all sorts. For the minor ones, though, these are smaller events that are not massively game-breaking, but they can kind of change the course of things. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is that at the beginning of each game, I've got people to draw from this deck, and then something happens, and I always say after they've drawn it, your fate is sealed.
Your fate is sealed.
And so one of them was that the town's supply of their most popular drink, in this case it was wine, has run out. And then I linked it into the whole adventure. Yeah, so you see, it works.
I thought that was part of, like, I remember something when we was writing, but I honestly thought that it was all part of the actual adventure that kind of co-thingied with that one. Do you know what I mean?
So it was just actually a happy coincidence.
Yeah, it worked pretty well.
I had Death Frost Doom, which is a thing all about cold and zombies at the top of a mountain and things like this. Loads of soldiers in the town were coming back injured, and they were all frostbitten and mutilated, and shit like this. And Then what happens is that somebody pulled that card at the table, and I looked at it and went, okay, great. And I said, and the adventure hook was the town's wine supply has run out, and when you guys go to investigate the field, all the crops are cold, and there's like dead soldiers littering the streets, and you pick up the soil and it's icy to the touch.
Icy to the touch,
and you go,
yeah.
Oh mate, it must be something to do with that mountain they mentioned.
Mate,
earlier.
it was pretty. Well, I wrote the fucking thing review and it didn't. I didn't pick up on it, so.
So there you go, and that
But it was perfect, and it was honestly as a player, it did honestly feel like there was it was part of the adventure. We was like, all right, so frozen mountain, frozen zombie, frozen grapes. It's all one of the same.
Yeah, and there was also another one about a new tax that had just come into play.
Yes.
And that was another event pulled from that. And the reason that sort of existed in the world, the reason I gave it is because they're at war. Yeah. And he's trying to get more money for the war effort.
Yeah.
And that's an example of how to fit a random event into your campaign. You can link it to the adventure they're about to do, or to the adventure a bit maybe, and make it make sense in your world. And yeah, so look out for 78 Hamlet happenings. Hopefully that will be out very soon.
Yeah,
and be
fingers
something
crossed.
you guys can
hopefully enjoy it. I mean, our aim is it's literally going to be a tool, a small toolbox that will make the GM's life easier and make his or her world more vibrant, more exciting.
Totally, 100%. And I think we've done a good job.
I hope so.
Anyway.
Let us know. Yeah, let us know. But we're really happy with it.
We'll probably post an announcement on our channel when it comes out.
Yep.
But that's basically it, I think, for actually starting the game.
Getting it
it's
going.
Actually relatively simple. Get a world and read about it, or quickly make up some key locations in a world and make a map. Then just make sure you have plenty of random tables, and you're good to go.
And when you say make a map, we're not expecting you to, like we said before, a vast, detailed map. Just it could be a blank piece of paper with one town in the middle. Yeah,
it actually can be, and especially in the case if you're playing DCC, because you're supposed to play characters that have never ventured far from their home.
So there you go.
There you go.
And it's easy to start. So don't, because I mean, if there's me being one of them, not great with drawing and stuff. I get a bit put off by drawing detailed maps because I'm crap at it. Don't worry too much. You don't need all this kind of detail and that. You can just, like you said, something basic, just so you can kind of center your world and give yourself this kind of mental picture in your head of where everything is in relation to where this one town starts.
Well, and typically as well, the world is drawn by the players as they explore.
Yeah.
So don't even worry about it.
There you go. Let them do it. Throw some pens.
Yeah.
And away you go.
But once you've got all that ready, the next step obviously is running the game. And we've got quite a few big tips here, but one of my most important one is don't prepare for every eventuality. And that comes into the last thing we said. And, of course, the importance of improv. Yeah. In a sandbox, it would be impossible to know what's going to happen all the time. Many GMs can accurately predict what the players might do, but how well they succeed or fuck it up can vary so wildly. Yeah. So my advice, never ever prepare too much. This may seem counterintuitive, but let me explain, dear listener. When the characters interact with the world you either picked or built, they're very likely to do stuff you'll never see coming, so preparing one adventure hook that the players may never take is a bad idea. By all means, prepare the hook and the adventures, but preparing every nook and cranny of a city or over-preparing one adventure and not in another area is a terrible idea. Thinking that these PCs will stay there and meet all these interesting NPCs you've cooked up or explore all the amazing establishments you've made is just unrealistic. It's not going to work,
And it's fine.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're like, my world is so great.
Don't you just want to stand around and admire it? No.
No, we want to do our own shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And instead, just have a general idea, an overview for each main area, and then rely on your random tables or your imagination to populate the area. That's all I've done, Yeah, mate. This city that you main one of you guys are adventuring in, I don't have a map for. No. Because it gets built as you play.
Well, it's a living, breathing, evolving thing. So if you was to actually constrain it to a size just by drawing it out, then, I don't know, you've kind of constrained it then.
Yeah, once you put all of the locations in the city on the map, that's all the players are going to do.
Because prime example in our Lamentations game was like, okay, so where's the vineyard? And you was like, well, that the vineyard is just of the west of the city, just outside. And we're like, okay, brilliant.
Yeah, and then there was also a bit last week where the characters were looking for somewhere to get their magic goods identified. And I just said, well, give me an intelligence roll. Somebody rolls intelligence, and then they were like, Okay, I remember it's on the northeast side of town, and it's called the Seclusium. Although it's technically not secluded because it's in a city. It's where all the wizards go, and it's a massive library as well as a wizard training ground. And that was just something that I came up with on the fly, and it fits in the city.
Perfect.
And because the king has an archmage and shit like this, so by all means,
Makes
he would
sense.
train people.
But that's not to say it's the only shop in that whole town that you can take a magic item to.
Yeah, and it's just the one that you know of.
Exactly.
And if you fail on your intelligence, well, you can go asking around and things like this.
Yep.
And then it just comes up. You know, if the PCs say they want to find the crummiest, dirtiest pub in the area, then come up with one on the fly. That's what we did with the Frigid Cousin.
Hello. Yeah. I mean, it's the worst. And it was just serendipity that your table gave us a terrible name. But it's great, and we'll never forget that pub now.
Yeah, and in addition to this, some of the characters that were rolled randomly in that pub have become proper characters. There's
Already,
this guy that's a grub farmer that hosts these grub fights, and they all these grubs fight each other. It's like cockfights, but with poisonous grubs.
Yeah.
And I rolled randomly for the guy, and he was a standoffish bloke with diseased skin, and I was like, well, that fits perfectly if he raises poisonous grubs.
And at the moment, he's a mainstay.
Yep. And if the PCs decide to explore an area of previously unexplored woodlands, populate it on the fly with monsters or ruins or a secluded township that they previously didn't know about, give something interesting while they explore.
Yeah.
This may seem difficult, but as the old saying goes, write what you know. Add in a second-hand store from your town if you need to come up with something quickly, but give it a fantasy name. It's like there's one down the road. So if you guys went to a general store to get some shabby goods, I'd be like, okay, well, the second-hand store down the road is called Second Thoughts.
Yeah, there you go.
So I might just, add that into the game and give it the guy that runs it is a bloke that you know from work.
Got an eye patch, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If you do that, improv will basically be piss easy. Even if you aren't familiar with any books or movies from the genre you're playing and are a shut-in who watches Antiques Roadshow. Well, actually, there's a fantastic essay about that by Michael Curtis of DCC fame.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and what he says in this article is basically he says that even if you don't read fantasy, you don't have any ideas for a fantasy plot, he said put your Antiques Roadshow knowledge in the game.
There you go.
Because what you can do is the PCs return back to town after a night of adventuring. And they come back to see that there's an antiques fair in town, and all of these people are identifying magical items. And the PCs go and get their thing identified, and it's a statue. And suddenly you find out this statue is made by one of the most famous elven worksmen in the world.
There you go.
And there you go. That's an adventure hook.
Yeah.
And also you would already know the personalities of all the presenters. That's your favourite show. So those are the people that are identifying the items. You've already got pre-generated characters for you.
Easy. Yep.
And
David Dickinson's there.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You
Real deal.
You walk up to this man and he's got bright orange skin and slick back hair.
Yeah.
And people will be like, wow, I want to speak to this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, that was basically what he said in the article all about Antiques Roadshow, and it's such a great idea. It can be populated with anything. We even had an NPC based on Gordon Ramsay in one of Sean's sandbox campaigns,
And it will work, because the great thing about human beings is that they do have all these varied personalities and
eccentricities.
That's the word I'm looking for. Eccentricities to them. So nothing that you can put in there won't be believable, because real life. What's the old saying?
Life imitates art.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it also works the other way around.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. So never feel like, oh, he's unbelievable. Why not? I'm sure there's someone out there that is crazy like that.
Yeah, even if it's the most humdrum, boring guy at work, that's enough for it to be a fleshed out character. You made
a whole character off the base of that.
Exactly,
and it was great.
Yeah, but Man, the most boring man in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, just write what you know. It also applies to GMing what you know. You know? Put that shit in your world, and it will instantly be believable. Yeah. And that makes improv easy. That means anyone can improv, and anyone can come up with details on the fly. And it doesn't just go for adventure hooks either. It goes for anything populating the world, from a character to an animal that you see that's based off your mate's cat, to a monster that's based on a big fat boss you used to have at work.
Or your mother-in-law, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, all of these steps will basically make improvising parts of your setting much less difficult.
Yeah.
The next thing I wanted to point out was, I don't know how to pronounce this, and this is also kind of based on an article I read in the same book, but raison d'etre.
Raison d'etre. Yes, I've heard this word before.
Everything in your world must have a purpose for being there, even in gonzo games.
It's raison d'etre, yeah.
Yeah. So, although random elements are important to a sandbox games, things don't come into existence for no reason. This will help create a believable world and add a great sense of realism to your games. Did you roll randomly for an event in a Fallout game, and while roaming the wastes, the players come across an abandoned, destroyed town? Well, what was the town before the bombs hit? What did it do? What are the signs
It
hanging
wasn't
off?
always a ruin, was it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And what sort of shit do they find in the NPCs, dead NPCs' pockets that they find around there? Maybe you can have it so that the town has only just been hit and it wasn't actually hit in the nuke, you know?
Totally.
So why is it there? You know, have reasons.
Why
for
has he
being
got
there.
this in his pocket, you know?
Yeah. And let's say you roll on the encounter table in a fantasy game and you get an encounter with a roving band of orcs. Well, as we said before, make it fit in. Make them have a reason for being there. They're looking for something, whatever. And that way it will be a much more easy and believable world.
They're lost and scared and not actually a threat.
Yeah, and although this is probably a tip for any game, I think it's more important in a sandbox.
Yeah,
'Cause
totally.
That will make the world feel alive. So, for example, going back to the thing of GURPS, you remember Jurassic Duck?
Yeah, of course.
What it was is that these people tried to clone dinosaurs, made a theme park based around it. But as many people know, dinosaurs weren't scaly. That is, information that was discovered semi-recently.
Yeah.
And they were feathered. So they thought that they were descended from ducks, and they made a theme park based around it.
Perfect.
And then it obviously went bad, like the Jurassic Park movie, and so it's a ruined planet that was a theme park planet. Although that's completely nuts and stupid, and that was in a gonzo type game, it still had a reason for being
It's
there.
bound in realism. So it was something. It got destroyed. It's now a ruin. It's got character. It gives it like there's still a reason behind it. It's not like random.
Yeah, ducks. Yeah, and that way, when you're exploring, when people are exploring it, you can go. The details you add in are going to be based on that backstory you had, not just because you think you put it in there because it's random and funny.
Yeah, because that's shit.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not funny. What you think's funny, most people won't.
Yeah.
Newsflash.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming for experience.
And the thing is, as I also think like a believable ecology is really important, which is something like, there's a reason in D&D that a lot of monster descriptions will tell you what type of area that monster comes from. If you're fighting a frogman, well, that should be in a swamp.
He ain't coming from the desert lands, is he?
No, exactly. It's one of those desert. I bet now somebody's going to tell us. Desert toads are a thing.
Duh. Dicks.
But still, you get what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
So there was this from the same book, How to Write Adventure Modules That Don't Suck.
Of course, yeah. I thought I recognised when you was mentioning the one earlier. Yeah. It's a great book. Go check it out.
There's another essay by a guy called Christopher Clark, and he's an RPG designer, and he says the simplest explanation for a need for rationale behind things is found by illustrating an example that noticeably lacks this kind of relationship. And he goes on to demonstrate an adventure that he made called The Cave of Really Bad Adventure, in which traps are in the cave because they are, and Slime's a giant spider that's too large to even leave the room, inhabits in there as well, and there's slimes, there's goblins. But the spider and the slimes would likely see the goblins as a tasty treat, so why would they all be living in there together?
No, they'd eat them, wouldn't they? Yeah, of course they would, yeah.
They're in there because dungeon.
Because it's a dungeon.
That's it.
Yeah.
So if you have a good reason behind everything being where it is, that's for dungeon design, but also apply that to a sandbox game. Boom, believability.
Yeah, believability.
Yeah, so just basically think of these pitfalls whenever the players visit any area of your game, because it needs to feel like whatever's there belongs. Even if it's for a silly reason and you're playing a gonzo game.
I was just about to say, even if it's the most stupid reason, it needs reason.
Yes.
And that's it. And that's all it needs. And it doesn't matter what the reasoning is, just give it reason, and then that gives it kind of, that makes it physical and makes it feel realistic.
And I feel like that's probably one of the most important tips for a zombie or Fallout type game as well. I mean, in D&D, you're always going into old ruins and shit too.
Sure.
So all of those things, like, they were once a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing, like, adventuring, by definition, you're going to go and look at shit. Whereas, if it's a post-apocalyptic game, you're surviving.
Yeah.
Do you want to go into that big ruin that's probably radioactive? Not really, unless I have to. Why would I go in there?
Yeah. But when you do, you might discover interesting shit about it. It'll make the players, put two and two together with your world and shit. And even if you just come up with on the fly, it'll probably be good.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the biggest things as well is choice and consequence.
Yes.
Well important in a sandbox game.
Oh my god, yeah, of course.
So, if you're playing a bloody linear game or something like this, by all means, the players can do whatever they want, but the likelihood is that you're going to get back onto that plot
one way or another, yeah.
Yeah, and that's fine for linear games. It really, really doesn't matter. But the thing is about a game where you have choice and consequence, like a sandbox, where it's more of a simulation of living in that world. Choices are so fucking important, and the consequences of it.
Yeah, mate. If you're going to go bowling around this world making waves, don't expect there to not be repercussions in some way or another.
Yeah, I mean, typically in a sandbox adventure, you're not supposed to have, a linear plot, but you can.
Yeah.
You really, really can.
Or you can have an overarching plot.
Yeah, an overarching goal.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
and the players can set that, or in reality, you can set it, and they can go about it any way they want.
Or you can show them lots of different ones, and then they go,
totally.
"Oh yeah, that's what we want to do." And if they've got that as their main mission, like us with Lamentations. Let's be honest, the other day, even though the main overarching mission for us is to obviously find the kidnapped Flame Princess. The past 2 episodes has been about the Royal Grumble.
Yeah.
Because that's a personal goal that we all agreed on and all find very fun.
And that was the grub fight. And the funny thing is about the finding the Flame Princess was that that got changed episode 1.
We'll get around to that.
you guys like went headlong into a dungeon trying to conquer it.
She's got to be in there.
She's got to be in there. And then when you got down there, you all got completely destroyed. Had to spend a fate point to not die. Then ended up waking up in a hospital in the city.
Yep.
And
that's gone on the back burner since.
Yeah, exactly. Because the king immediately looks at you, this guy Lord Alphen, and he comes up to you and he's just like, "Look, you're off the case."
Yeah, that's it. You guys are shite.
Yeah, he's like, "You're gonna just die, so forget it.
Forget about it."
And so that was a very small example of a consequence as part of a choice that the players made. They went headlong in thinking they were going to win.
We're going to save the day. I thought it was going to be session 0, session finished. Like we'd get the woman and then that's it. It's all done. No, not really, but you know what I mean. It was like literally. That was the main thing to start the game off, and it was cool. And it's like, yeah, that's definitely what we're gonna. I mean, ultimately, we want to save the Flame Princess, of course we do. But I think we're having so much fun at the moment, just messing about,
doing what you want to do. Yeah, and you've kind of set your. Well, that was the grub fight was the way that you set your own goal.
And the wine, that was. And we had about 3 missions. Like at the moment, we've got at any given time, it seems like we've almost got 3 kind of little missions that we could get stuck into if we wanted to.
Yeah, because there's so many different things going on in the world. Yeah. And you're like, do we want to do this? Do we want to do that? If we do that in 3 days, and we're late back, will this guy be annoyed with me?
Well, it was like so we got an invite to an audience with the king, and we got so mixed up in what we was doing at the time that it gave us no time to actually get washed or anything.
Yeah, because you guys were bumbling about in the sewers for 2 hours. Then after you got out of the sewers, you're like, shit, we got half an hour till we got to be there.
We better go.
Start running across town. You turn up at the fucking castle and you're soaked to the waist up in sewage,
walking it through on the carpet and everything. Yeah. It was brilliant.
It was so bad. And the thing is, then that changes how PCs react to you. But one big event that's just happened as well is they accidentally burnt the Frigid Cousin pub down.
Oh god,
because they're players.
Yeah, yeah,
And the funny thing about that was that now some bad shit's going to go down.
Yes,
because you were responsible for an arson.
Yeah,
well, you weren't. Your character wasn't there.
No, but the rest of them did. And we wanted to like win over the people and everything. Bring the wine back. Have the best fight ever. And
it went abysmally.
Went a bit wrong.
It went so badly. And it ended up with Ryan. He was like, he basically went for Plan Z, and he was like. He's like, right, this fight ain't going well. I pour oil on them in this wooden pub and set them alight. And then it was crazy. But yeah.
Stay tuned to the next update, you'll find out.
Yeah, a sandbox essentially has to have a consequence to every action, good or bad.
Yeah.
If they do good and they're working for the police, perhaps the police start to like them. If they do something bad and they start stealing, well, then maybe they're shunned from the town or they're put in prison. Or that's a simple example.
Gets put on them, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, but that is one of the most important things because you really, really have to make the world feel alive and to make your players feel like they're interacting with it. Choices and consequence have to be the main sort of thing, and that also goes for NPCs. So NPCs will be living their daily life outside of what the fuck you're doing, and maybe they've done shit in the town that's caused consequence as well. And that means that shit's gonna go bad, like the tax that the king put on. Everyone has to give their half of their income to charity now, which is just a war effort. And
a charity.
Basically, he's now. There's been rioting in the streets and people
civil unrest. Yeah, of course,
exactly.
Well, like you said, it's like the John from the shop doesn't just sit there waiting for the adventurers to walk in to buy stuff. He's got a life of his own. Maybe he's got himself into debt. Maybe he's got whatever. Something's happened.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's that if you. like things should continue to happen in the world even if the players aren't there.
That's it, exactly.
That's it. So if they've been away for months from the city, what about it has changed?
God, it may be everything. You know, it may be something ever so slight, but there will be change. It's always moving.
If you use our 78 Hamlet happenings document,
Yeah.
well, one of the things that could happen is maybe the king's died of some weird plague, and now he's been taken over by his son, who's a child. That's one of the ones we got, and he starts enacting all these weird laws. So suddenly the players come back to town and they see that vegetables have been banned.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's really malnourished, and they're like, "What's going on?
It's like the new king.
He's a bastard.
He's banned broccoli.
He's outlawed carrots."
Meat prices go up. People are looking all gaunt and fucking undernourished.
Exactly, but you get it. So yeah, so even though like you said, even if the players aren't there, the town is still moving, it's still living, it's still breathing.
Next tip: no hand waving. And
No
I don't
hand
mean literally.
waving.
You're welcome to wave your hands around at the table all you want, especially if you're doing spells.
Yeah, of course.
But what I mean is, with travel, overland travel, a lot of people don't like it, and a lot of people also don't like downtime. But these things are important to a sandbox world because you've got to do them to actually have your players interact with the world. Tales from the Loop, for example, it's got a really good system in it because it's a cinematic type game.
Yeah.
Where if they're just travelling somewhere and it's an unimportant scene, move on to the next important scene.
Yeah.
That's good for that type of game, but for this, overland travel and getting to places is important because that's how your players interact with the world. They'll see shit, as we mentioned, while they're getting from place to place.
Yeah.
They'll also want to do downtime in the city. And our story about the grub fight, and that's been going on for 2 weeks now, that is a very good example of why I don't hand wave downtime.
Yeah.
Because you literally, that born a story.
Yeah,
you know,
it did,
that
totally.
came out of it. And it was fucking fantastic.
You need
as well.
them interactions. You can't edit. Edit down a sandbox game because that's where you get all your kind of golden content from.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you do that, you're robbing the players of an essential part of a sandbox. They're exploring, they're finding
If they
things
want
out.
to go out and interact, don't fast forward them because it's not fair. They're not interacting with anything. They're just jumping from area to area that the GM thinks is cool and it's not. It's like,
the thing is, no amount of flowery language can really equate for actually travelling somewhere.
Nah,
you know, if you say,
right.
"Oh, it's been a grueling journey," you're like, "Yeah, but it was only 30 seconds of explanation."
Yeah, exactly.
If you make it actually grueling.
Yeah,
you know?
proper. Yeah, you know, it's pouring down with rain. Use weather, use terrain, use anything. Just
Random
make it
encounters.
Random encounters. Make it feel like they're actually fighting to get there. Like the adventurers that they're actually playing are. You know, they don't jump in a nice car with air conditioning and just drive. They have to go on horseback for weeks and you know, deal with all this horrible stuff.
That's just it, you know, because that is what's important about the travel. Is it's probably going to be grueling. A long distance.
Yeah,
there's going to be more random
Yeah.
encounters, and
They should be prepping for it before they leave. They shouldn't just be like, "Oh, well, it doesn't matter, so we fast forward." What, you didn't buy any food? It's like the travel's 4
exactly.
weeks. It's like, "Oh, well, we'll be all right. We're fast forwarding it." No,
totally.
mate. Yeah.
I mean, the same doesn't really apply for a game like. Maybe it does for Wise Guys as well, because you're going to see shit as you're driving through Vegas. You know what I mean?
What if you ain't got enough petrol and you get stuck in the desert?
Yeah, that'd be funny.
You know?
It's like,
Yeah.
did somebody forget to fill up the car? And you're like,
Oh,
well,
God.
2 weeks before we get back to Vegas,
We're going to have to
boys.
eat Paulie. Yeah.
So yeah, it is important because that a lot of situations are going to arise from that, and I
Yeah.
think as I say, you're robbing the players of a part of a game if you take that out.
And on the other side as well, you know, it doesn't have to be like, obviously travel can be grueling, or it could be like there's an encounter or stuff, but it doesn't have to be a negative experience. They might bump into something cool. They might discover a cool ruin. They might find a society that's been hidden away that can help them. You know, all this kind of stuff.
Exactly, but that actually reminds me of our Fallout game that Sean run, because in that, you know, the random encounters were fucking horrible. a lot of the time.
they were. Yeah.
Like, they were deadly as shit, but it made the journey like so much better. Cause,
Yeah.
like, remember that time where Sean rolled on 2 random encounters when we were travelling? First of all, acid rain starts dropping on us, and
Yeah.
we're fucking legging it.
Yeah. Oh,
and then
God,
we're like, do we see any places? He rolls randomly for the next place we get to, and it's like abandoned house that's basically all the walls have been blown off, and there's the middle floor is like still just about intact. So we stay under that for literally 10 hours.
Yeah.
Right? And then we were like, look, we are going to die out here if we don't fucking get out of this rain. So Nick's character, a giant robot, held a bit of sheet metal above us while we
Canopy.
like an
Yeah.
umbrella, and we walked under it to get to the next town.
So sick.
But that was that made travelling through the world difficult. And
what a cool moment when we was all like getting through the rain and stuff. It felt really
that was
fun.
hilarious. Yeah. And the thing is that it made the world, like the travel. It was just like now now it's actually grueling, and it should be in a Fallout game.
Especially in
it
a
shouldn't be in
Fallout
every
game.
setting, but in most it should. I mean, in GURPS as well, we had you travelling across the galaxy, and we had random space encounters. They were rare, but they did happen.
It did happen.
And one of them led to the worst moment in the game.
The destruction of our beautiful ship.
Yeah, so there you go. It's worthwhile. Do that. Do that.
it.
Do not fast forward.
No, do not fast forward a sandbox.
And let the people go around the town and buy their shit. I know people hate doing interactions with NPCs in shops and micromanaging.
Yeah.
But even the players are going to bargain. They're going to do shit. They're going to piss people off.
Yeah.
You know, whatever.
And let them get distracted as well. You know, let them get distracted. If they're travelling somewhere and they find something that you've narrated and they want to go check it out, don't try and be like, oh, there's nothing really interesting. So let them go and look at it.
Yeah, because that's what the game's about. You know, the sandbox game's about exploration. So if they find something more interesting than your adventure hook, that's a good thing. It means
Suck
they're
it up,
finding
Mr.
something interesting.
GM, be versatile. You know, we're not all there to just enjoy your story. We're here to help you make a wicked story too.
Yeah, and so the thing is that when it comes down to it, you know, they've found something interesting.
Yeah.
And that's what you want.
And exactly. And me, even when I've been GMing and you guys have come out with something that I would never have thought of, and I'm like, oh my god, thank you so much, because you've just made my next session's going to be so more interesting because of what you guys have given me.
Yeah, it was like in Gen Lab when we did a whole side story where I was trying to find the guy that killed my family.
Yeah, totally.
And we just started asking around.
Cool,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah, that was a really fun.
And that was what you guys gave to me, which then in turn was regurgitated back out into the story, which was fun.
But the thing about all of this, right, is that obviously these are tips for how to run a sandbox, and these are really important things to a sandbox, but does it make it fun? And the answer is probably. But the thing about it is that there are a few steps that you can do to make it specifically fun.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people aren't into simulation as shit, and it doesn't have to be that. But exploration, things like this, they can be grueling, they can be hard, and there can be big moments where there's no story and things like this.
Yeah.
But a couple of tips. Number one, involve your PC's backstories. If they say, I was part of a travelling circus and they tortured me, well, maybe the circus shows up somewhere. Vary the type of adventure they'll play, because you've got a big world. It's not just going to be all dungeon delves.
No, you can do investigation, you can do horror, you can do all sorts of stuff. You could do social conflict. Yeah, anything
totally.
like that.
And that even goes for any type of game that you can stick any genre in that. Well, let's say for example you're playing I'm going to go back to Wise Guys again, but if you're playing that, which is one of these most stellar modern settings, you can add horror in there. Maybe there's a guy that's been knocking off gangsters and he's like some sort of hero that wants to kill people, or he's from the rival gang and they're being mutilated in really horrible ways,
in horrendous. Yeah, exactly.
and he wears like a dog mask, and now suddenly people are afraid of the dog man,
The Gimpo.
yeah, the Gimpo.
Yeah,
So
nice.
yeah, but something like that, and give them reasons to explore. We've already discussed that, but that's bloody important. Give them interesting reasons to explore, I should say.
Yeah.
Not just treasure, always.
No.
And before the game, discuss the possibility of death, you know, with the characters. Not in real life, but in the game.
Just have a deep chat before we start, man.
This game's going to last a while, all right? So
Many of us might die on the way in real life. So just be prepared for that. Okay?
Yeah, because in 60 years' time, you know, who knows?
Who knows what's going on? Yeah.
But no, discuss it, because the thing about it is the encounter levels of things in a sandbox game are going to vary wildly. They're not always going to be to your party's level, because you're exploring the wilderness. If you go into the type of terrain where they might see, I don't know, shit example, but a dragon, right? Well, if they're level 1, probably shouldn't be taking it on.
Nah.
And the thing is that
You should
means...
have took a leaf out of that book, really.
Yeah, maybe. But the thing is, tell your players before the game, look, this is how it's going to be. So bear in mind, you have to interact with it in a realistic way. Don't just think GM's put this here so I can kill it.
It means it's killable. No, sandbox, mate. You might have, you might be well off the tracks in regards to levels, because you can't. Like, it's not linear, so you can't have a progression like, oh, here's a boss, here's your next boss who's going to be tougher, because you're not running that way.
I mean, put it this way, even in real life, in your town, you're unlikely to be savaged by bears while you're in the city.
I hope not, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Well, maybe in your area.
Yeah, maybe in Sutton, but,
But the thing is that, like, but if you look at, I don't know, the Canadian wilderness, right?
Yeah.
In your town, there are, possibilities of bears, but there's a way higher possibility when you're in the woods.
I'd say so.
Where the bears live.
I'd say so.
I'm almost certain of that. I'm no scientist.
I'm no bearologist.
Bears
right?
like the woods.
I mean, do bears shit in the woods?
Who knows?
As the saying says.
We're still working on that in the lab, but we'll get there.
We can let you know.
And make sure that the players know that they can try whatever they want. That's the next tip.
Yes.
Show, don't tell as well, which is important for any game, really.
Yeah,
If you want to say if the world is at war, make sure they know it's at war. Like our world, there hasn't been any battles, but that's one of the key things about the world at the moment. Is that there hasn't been a full-scale attack from the enemy army in 7 months. And
there's all this tension because we don't know when they're going to attack again, yeah.
And then the tax comes in, the wine's
run out.
And that's really important because during times of war, people are trying to drink to forget, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Things like this. So, show, don't tell. And always keep new discoveries coming. That goes pretty much into every single point we've made so far.
Yeah, totally.
But that's basically it. But lastly, so I want to talk about equipment for running a sandbox game. What do you need? Well, I usually just, when I'm running a linear campaign, like, for example, Solomon Kane, where there was always 2 missions on the go or something like this, I would just bring the minis I needed.
Yeah.
So either you can bring generic minis to represent any monster, but for a sandbox game, bring a fuck ton of minis if you're using minis.
Why don't you tell the listeners about your little tip of accumulating lots of minis on the cheap?
Yeah, just buy the fucking D&D board games. Yeah. They're well good. It cost me £40 to get that one up there, and it came with 45 minis.
45 minis. You're never going to need more.
Yeah, so well good. And
what about them other cheap ones as well you picked up that were like from a game that don't exist anymore, so you got them dirt cheap?
Also a good tip. Yeah, so this goes for any game really, but it was for it was called Mistfall, and it was some weird fucking war game that nobody played.
What we're saying is minis don't have to be expensive, and especially if you want to buy them in mass,
Yeah, and because they're going to be fighting a big wealth of stuff. Bring all of them.
Yeah, bring them all with you.
You don't know where they're going to go.
Well, I bought a bag of zomboids years ago. Bag o zombies. Do you remember for that game? Yeah. And they're just like a staple for bad guys now. And so many, it's great.
Anything that we have that's a generic monster we don't have a mini for, it's usually a zombie. But I've got some from a board game I bought in Japan, but it's basically just a black outline of a monster-like image.
That's it, and they're really good as well.
So you can use that, or bring loads of minis. Yeah. That's my important. Cheat sheets.
Yes, absolutely. Those. God, yes. Cheat sheets. There's a wealth of them on the internet.
You had quite a few in your GenLab game, didn't you?
Make your own. Yeah, so I used to make my own. So what I would do with mine was I would get the PDF of the book, and then the snipping tool on
Windows.
Windows, snip the hell out of it, pull it on a piece of paper, then print it off. Really easy. Gives you quick access to the bits you need.
Yeah, perfect. Because that can act like a sort of addition to your GM screen.
Of course it can.
You're gonna have the rules on there, but like you said, for remembering social structures, like I've got a cheat sheet with the laws of the region in it.
Exactly, because you've got to remember all these kind of fundamental things to keep the world flowing well. Otherwise, it'll be like, hold on a minute, weren't they anti that last week?
Yeah. It's like, okay, wait, these people, they were friendly with goblins one week, and then now we've come back, and you're like, oh shit, should have had a cheat sheet.
We changed our mind.
They're bloody important, and in fact, a lot of sandbox adventures, they come with cheat sheets already baked in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I forget what it's called, the Cannibal Kingdom or something like that. The one with the monkey on it on DCC.
Oh yeah.
It's a sandbox adventure, so it could be played in like 4 to 5 weeks. But you're exploring a small island, Tolomak Island.
Oh yeah, with the massive ape in it.
Yeah. And the thing about that is that comes with little cheat sheets for what happens at certain times, where people will be, things like that. So it's a really really good one. Next up, bring a vinyl map or some like printed out graph paper. Because they're going to go places you don't expect, and you're going to need to quickly draw
stuff. But honestly, do yourself a favour, get yourself the vinyl maps. For £25, I think it was. They are fantastic. We've been you've used it for ages, but I've got myself one, and we've been using them a little bit more recently in our games. And they just really bring a nice element to being able to just quickly knock something up, and then quick spray of water, wipe it all off. It's really really handy. Definitely money well spent. I must say.
Because you need the thing is you need a good. If you're playing tactical combat, obviously most people only draw maps for the important combats. Yeah. But in a sandbox, you don't know which one's going to be the important combat.
Until it happens. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, because sandboxes are more like story after, not like some games that are like story during. You're creating a story altogether. Sandboxes are more like you dick around, do what you want, and then at the end you're like, oh my god, wasn't that fun? As opposed to like at the time you're like, this is a good story we're building.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So the thing is you don't know what's going to be the big important encounter. You can have an idea, but you need to be able to draw maps on the fly if you're doing grid-based combat.
Absolutely.
And also if you're exploring dungeons, of course.
Yeah, sure.
A notepad.
Yes.
Obviously really fucking important. Make sure you note down every single thing that the players are doing. Not every single thing, but like every important shit.
When something gets verified or when something gets noticed and then becomes canon, write it down so you don't forget it.
Yeah, and in addition, anything that might have a consequence in the next session.
Exactly.
You know, write it down because that's going to be important.
Oh, you stole from that old lady? Oh, well done, you got some gold. But write it down, you know, months later, who knows?
Months later,
Come
they
back
might
to haunt them.
Yeah, because they might go back to the shop and be like, to the old lady's shop that they stole from, and be like, "Hi, we want to buy some." She's like, "You again?"
Never.
Like, oh fuck, I forgot.
Yeah, I've outlawed you in all the other shops as well because I know them, you know. And then it's like, yeah, well, we should have stole that bit of money now. But remember it, otherwise you'll forget it, and then the players will forget it, or the players will want you to forget it, and they get away with it.
Never steal from an old woman.
No, rule number 1.
But yeah, bring spare character sheets because, as we mentioned, they're going to be they'll probably come up against things that are not their level.
No.
So bring them just in case.
Yep.
Loads of paper in case you need to draw maps as well if you haven't got a vinyl map. Random dungeon generators can be quite a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely like into these that much. No, I don't know, because it's you can find some good tools if you need a really quick dirty dungeon. Then just
You need a quick dirty dungeon? I'm your man.
I'm your man. Quick dirty dungeons, Dave. So if you need one of those, there's, I think it's called donjon.net, but just type in random dungeon generator and you'll find it, and there's some pretty good ones. You can add in different types of dungeon as well, so it's got things like you can have one that's entirely underwater, or it's abyssal, whatever that means. I don't know, it's like hellish. I guess,
Abyssal, yeah.
Yeah, things like that. So it's a pretty decent tool, and it actually populates it with a little bit of story as well.
Perfect.
Which is pretty cool. There's random hex and world generators as well if you don't want to, make your world. There's pretty good ones.
Random
I used the
tables.
random world generator just for the overall world.
There you go.
But I drew the region map myself.
Yep.
And that's basically it for all the advice for hex. No, hex crawls. I was
Hex
gonna say.
crawls. Wrong episode.
Yeah, for sandbox adventures.
I would add one actually. That remember that deck of cards that I've got that is literally 52 locations, and it's literally just each card is a small tiny map that's the size of a playing card, and every single card has a small blueprint map on the back, and then on the other side it just gives you some random shit that's inside. And you've got bundles, so if anyone goes to any building, they come in fantasy, sci-fi, and modern, and they're very handy as well because you've got a constant stream of buildings.
They're nice as well because they've got like actual floor plans on each one, and they tell you what's in there too.
Yeah,
really
exactly.
great because you can use that for a post-apocalyptic game or a modern one because you've got the modern set,
I've got
and
the
they're
modern
really,
ones.
really nice set cards. I like those a lot. Now I'm going to summarise.
Ooh,
I'm going to do it really fast.
Go on.
No, I'm going to do it slow.
No,
I'm going to do it regular speed. Right. Make or pick an interesting game world. Make a believable world map. Utilise randomness. Be prepared to improvise. Don't over-prepare. Make sure everything in the world has a purpose or reason for being there. Make sure player choices have consequences and NPC choices. Make your world a living world where things happen even when the PCs aren't there. Don't handwave travel and equipment. Make it fun and bring the right shit with you.
yes,
And those tips should make your sandbox bloody
amazing.
hopefully.
Of course it will. I would say, yeah, you're right. Don't prepare the actual game, but over-prepare the tools that you might need.
Yes, perfect.
So, and then
perfect.
you've got more stuff. than
That's
ever.
probably the best advice, and the choices and consequences. Those are the two things. If you take anything from this podcast, do those.
Yes.
But that's it for that bloody segment. We're going to move on and do a bit of what dat.
Oh.
What the hell is that, man? I don't know. What the hell is that? I don't like it, man. What that? What that, man? What that? Run away!
What dat? So what dat is a segment where you need to identify RPG related sounds, and usually it'll be like, sound of a goblin stealing bread or something like this.
Yeah, exactly.
But this time, what we're going to do, I've got some RPG adverts.
Oh.
Advertisements, and you're going to have to guess what game they're advertising.
Okay, excellent.
Obviously, what I did was I have censored the names when they say it in the advert. So here we go. Here's number one.
Go.
Challenge your imagination to come alive and to battle with the creatures of
Tabletop role-playing game.
grapple against the forces of evil as a
Superhero of some kind.
hunt adventure and glory as
Famous action hero.
the all-new role-playing games of
Company name. Tabletop role-playing game.
unleash the power of your imagination.
So
That sounds so old.
Yeah, it was, man.
That's got to be like AD&D, man. I reckon that's one of the first. I think that's one of the first adverts.
Well, it was actually the role-playing games of TSR.
Oh, really? In general?
Yeah, so that's why it's a generic action hero and superhero, because it's advertising AD&D, Marvel superheroes role-playing, and Indiana Jones the role-playing game.
Oh, no way, all at the same time?
Yeah, and then it says the role-playing games of D&D and TSR at the end. That's why it says company name. Yeah.
Half a point.
No.
No.
A third of a point.
All right,
Right,
fine.
here's the next one.
You are an animal. Your home is a vast valley, surrounded by mountains so high the peaks are covered with
Shite.
all year around. In
Tabletop role-playing game. Shite. Didn't see that
That's
one
Gen
coming.
Lab Alpha.
Yep, you got it right. That was Gen Lab Alpha, 100%.
Covered in shite. That's very good.
Right, next one, coming in your ears.
Go on.
Guard.
Damn it, the picture said there weren't any guards.
I'll take him out.
No, it's too noisy. Sal, can you drop him?
Him? No problem.
Oh, who goes there? Just what are you doing?
That was
Is that it?
That was a segment from it. The actual advertisement for this one is more of a promo, and it was 5 minutes long. So
Oh
I
my
picked
God,
the only part
really?
that had dialogue in it. Yeah.
Sounds like a far out game. Oh my god, that's a tough one. Right, like, it didn't sound fantasy. If I'm honest with you, it was like, you reckon you could drop him? It was almost like he was. I pictured in my head someone with like a sniper rifle.
So what game might that be?
Ooh,
An old one.
An old war game. Oh, is it? Oh no, because they're all tabletop role playing games, aren't they? They're not
Yeah, mostly.
mostly. All right, is it? It's not Warhammer, is it?
That was Shadowrun.
I was gonna freaking say Shadowrun, but there weren't enough. There wasn't enough technology in it. I thought he was gonna go when he said, "Do you think you could drop?" He was like, "Let me just jack in" or something like that.
Well, you know what? I can't remember if I. Well, I think I removed the part where he says, "Shall I shoot him?" No, she says it in that.
Yeah, she says, "Shall I shoot him?"
No, he says, "Shall I drop him, not
Drop
shoot
him,
him?" And
drop
she goes,
him.
"No, it'd be too loud."
Ah, right.
Yeah, and then
Right,
the
I was
woman
gonna
does
say Shadowrun,
the other
wasn't
woman does a spell on him. That's what that.
Oh, that's what that is. Oh, right.
It's a really cool little promo. Actually, it's a little
I'll check
live
it out.
action promo. It's pretty funny.
That sounds good.
So here is the next one. RPG style board game.
Deep inside another dimension, face battling barbarians and evil magic on a quest for adventure in a maze of monsters. This is
Bleep.
the fantasy adventure game where winning means mastering the arts of combat
I'll use my broadsword.
and magic. Once you get into it, you'll never be the same.
Fantasy board game.
Now, with 2 new adventure packs, the legend grows.
Was that you that said, "I am with my broadsword"?
No, that was in the actual
I
original.
thought you added that.
No, that was it's a little kid going, "I use my broadsword."
I use my broadsword.
It's like, and then the other kid goes something like, "Fire of Wrath."
Oh, no.
They're such lame fucking kids.
Oh no.
Oh man.
I think I've heard that advert. Is that Hero Quest?
Yes.
Yes,
Well done,
from
man.
the 80s or 90s.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
saw
yeah.
that on TV.
The
that
broadsword
advert.
thing.
I use my broadsword.
What a fucking loser. Okay, so the last one, man,
Yeah.
and I have to warn you, I
Oh.
cringed so fucking hard when I found this. I cringed so hard I wanted to die and fall into a hole at the same time.
No, it's going to hurt. I suffer from cringe a lot.
Go on, get ready, man.
Oh,
Here we go.
Here we go.
Got the perfect warlock, her weapons and supplies. But you need a place to track your stuff, cause you're so disorganized. You click open the webpage, you heard about a critical role, and now you're ready to kick some butt in a mine shot full of no's. It's
Tabletop RPG.
beyond, yeah,
Tabletop RPG.
beyond. You got your stats, you got your...
So
I hate that
it's
so much.
It's so bad, isn't it?
Oh.
It's like quite obviously an attempt to appear hip.
Did it say in the shadow of the...
I think it's at the end. I can't remember what it says, but at the end it goes, "Are you ready to go off to a cave and fight a war band of gnolls?" or something like this.
better wizard? So Europe, who sung the final countdown, have obviously been a bit quiet recently. Oh, I hate that so much. I couldn't even hear. I don't know.
It's so bad. You should see the fucking
It
animation.
said something about a website.
It did.
Oh, okay. All right. Could it be... Is it Roll20? Tell me it's not Roll20.
No, you're wrong.
Go on,
Unfortunately,
tell me. Put me out of my misery. That's horrible.
it was for the site D&D Beyond.
What's that?
It's a website where you can sort of add your character and track it and shit.
And then you go beyond the adventure.
Yeah, so the chorus is like, it's D&D, D&D.
So
much.
It's
so bad.
I hope that website no longer exists.
Oh, me too. But I think it does, sadly. But yeah, it was so fucking
That's
bad.
horrible.
Yeah, so sort it out. That's what Wizard of the Coast has become.
Yeah.
From what they were making the coolest, well, not the coolest, but the best games back in the day. And now look at this shit.
Is that tell me that's not recent.
It's recent, man. It's like a couple of years ago or some
I
shit.
thought that was like late 90s or something.
No.
Oh, that's even worse.
I know.
That is shameful. Shame on you, whoever sung that song.
And even the bit where they go, something...
I'm gonna be a wizard. Oh, play it again. You've got to play it again.
I'm not playing it again, no way. But they said there's a bit where they talk about a Critical Role in there as well.
Yeah, I thought that. Is that a shameless plug for that?
Yeah, they say, you heard about the Critical Role.
Now you've got to do it yourself. Fuck off. I hate it. That's horrible. Oh, dear.
Oh, terrible. All right, let's move on. I want to get out of this.
Yeah, please.
Roll up, come and play Dragon or Blaggin', a game where you could win big. Under this box, do I have a dragon, a mysterious creature of mythical origin, or is there in fact nothing? Am I blagging? Well, find out now, only £10 ago.
You, sir, come and play the game.
Who? Me?
Yes, you. Come on, come and play. Dragon or Blaggin'.
Next up, we have the famous, the fantastic, the time-defining, it's the longest living segment ever. It's Dragon or Blagging.
Which I don't know if people like or not, but we continue to do it.
We carry on doing it. And this time, we are doing Judge Dredd RPG.
So the premise of this segment is that essentially it's usually Nick will ask a question, and then some of the answers will be correct, and one of them will be blagging.
Bullshittery.
Exactly.
It's a little bit different this time, actually. So we're going for some nots rather than some haves. So,
okay.
So which of the following is not a Judge Dredd RPG mutation? Is it odd body? Is it extra appendage? Is it reinforced brow? Or is it living weapon?
You know, I was going to say odd body because I felt like that sounds made up, but considering it's written by English designers, I think that's real. So I'm going to go with reinforced brow.
Well done. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's like bullets can't hit you. Only if they hit you in the eyebrow, they ping off. Anywhere else in the face, you're doomed.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So yeah, odd body, extra appendage, and living weapon. I thought you'd be like, oh, because Nick calls himself a
trained weapon.
Trained weapon. Yeah, you'd go for that. But yeah, well done. Okay, so next one. Which of the following is not a Judge Dredd career? Is it Boinga? Is it Metalhead? Is it King of the Road? Or is it Peeper?
Was the first one Boinga?
Boinga. As in boing, like the noise.
So it's a bouncy guy. I think it's either that or Peeper. I'm going to go Peeper.
You think Peeper's the phony one, yeah?
Yes.
You're wrong. No, it's Metalhead.
Really?
Metalhead is the made up one, yeah. Boinga is a real career.
What the hell does a Boinga do?
They're like mad sports fans, and they there's this kind of mad futuristic sport, and they take they take an injection or they eat something. I need skimmed over it last night, but it basically encases their whole body in like a rubber kind of skin that lets them bounce around, and it's like this mad kind of sport and that.
So Judge Dredd has flubber in it.
Basically, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's that. King of the Road is like a gambler. That's people that don't hang around. Peeper's cool. Peeper is exactly that. Someone who sits in their windows with big binoculars and finds out what everyone's up to.
That's cracking.
So it's kind of cool. Right, next up. Which of the following is not a real 2000 AD comics world? Is it Sinister Dexter, Robo Hunter, Strontium Dog, or Death Drive 3000?
Well, I know that Strontium Dog is one because I've watched the fan film, so I know it's not that.
Mm-hmm.
What was the first one again?
Sinister Dexter.
See, I think it's that or Death Drive 3000, but Death Drive 3000 sounds like it would exist in a 2000 AD universe.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go for Sinister Dexter.
No, you fell into my trap.
Oh.
Yeah, no, Death Drive 3000 is the made up one. The other three are real.
That's good though. That sounds legit. You've blagged me.
Hey. Next up, Which of the following is not a robot's robotic fault from Judge Dredd's RPG?
A robotic thought?
Fault.
Oh, fault.
As in F-A-U-L-T is my accent, sorry. So, yeah, so like a problem with it.
A fault.
An issue you can have, yeah?
Got you.
So, is it lewd, overprogrammed, pleasure circuits, or oil sweats?
Oh, no, they're sex robots. Do you remember in Bubblegum Crisis they were called sexaroids?
Sexaroid.
Okay, so I'm going to go with lewd.
Well done. Yeah, you're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
because I thought pleasure circuits is probably the real one, and you've made one based on that.
Yeah. Do you know what? Pleasure circuit's really good because it's like, although not a fault, the robots can easily be distracted and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Because they feel pleasure basically. So it's not just sexual; it's any type of pleasure. So, So they could like your robot be like, "Come on, man," and it's like, "Oh man, look at this," or whatever. You know.
He's like, "Oh, I'm going to
overprogram's good. It means that they've been reprogrammed so many times that they can fall into their old modules and stuff and start acting out old roles they used to have and stuff.
So it'd be like they're running on Windows Vista.
Yeah, exactly.
But suddenly they go back to Windows 93.
Yeah, and that's when they
like,
like
I only have the
bot.
calculator function.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and all that kind of problem. And oil sweats is good as well. When they're under pressure, they sweat oil profusely.
That's amazing.
Yes, I thought that was good. Right, so next up, which of the following are generations of robots from the Judge Dredd RPG?
Right.
Is it the Heavy Metal Kids, Call Me Kenneth, Arthurtron 99, and Mechanica Man? Mechanica Men, sorry.
I'm going for Mechanica Men and the Heavy Metal Kids.
You got one right.
Shit.
Yeah, so the Heavy Metal Kids are a generation of robots from Judge Dredd, and also a huge generation, I think, because there's a whole war set on it, is the Call Me Kenneths.
What?
Yeah.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, Call Me Kenneth. That's a robot. And lastly, the last one is, which of the following is not a Judge Dredd RPG weapon? Is it Disintegrator, Spit Gun, Cyclops Laser, or Boominator?
Boominator.
Yeah, well done, yeah.
That sounds like something you would say. Because we always come up at our table when we're gaming. We always come up with these weird things. Like, I can't remember how it originated, but whenever somebody rolls well, that's a boogle.
That's a boogle,
When
yeah.
somebody rolls badly, that's a bongle.
Bongle, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
silly
we always have these like bloody weird things.
We
so
could write a book on
Boominator.
language. Boominator, yeah. So, yeah, you're right, yeah. So, Spit Gun. I want to read about Spit Gun. Cyclops Laser I thought was quite cool. Sounds quite cool.
A spit gun probably spits whatever liquid you put into it.
Could be, yeah, and it's quite a lowly weapon, so yeah, I'll check into that. But I must say, first impressions of... We'll do an episode on it, but first impressions of the Judge Dredd RPG, very good.
Yeah, it's one of the nicest looking books I've ever seen as well.
Looks very, very good.
I can't wait to actually get stuck into that at some point.
Definitely.
Right, so that's it for Dragon or Blagging. We're going to go and read some electro letters.
Oh boy.
In the future, you will be able to send a letter or parcel from anywhere on the planet. This, sir, is the electro letter.
Right, we're back.
Samurai.
Okay, so this is Electro Letters, where we read your mail from around the universe. So if you're an alien...
Get in touch. Yeah, we've expanded.
Be good to have one on the show, wouldn't
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? As long as he ain't turn up with his anal probe.
That's a bonus, if you're into that. So, with 4 Electro Letters this week, we asked you guys, what is the most important RPG etiquette one should observe, either as a player or GM? First one's kind of funny, because Owen Lean comes in. He says, as a GM, the player characters are the protagonists of your world. Never deny their agency. Spot on. Mm-hmm. As a player... This is an ensemble production. No player character is more important to the story than another. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah. He says, don't try to steal the scene. And then he also says, don't get drunk, don't get high, turn your phone off, never masturbate with a cheese grater. I mean, all good advice, but getting drunk and getting high can be fun in the right context if everyone at the table is doing it.
It's all about moderation as well.
And we've said this on the show before.
Yeah.
Just don't get too drunk or too high.
Yeah, exactly. And then you ruin your game.
Turn your phone off, though.
Yeah, phones can go away.
But, I mean,
jury's out about the masturbation with a cheese grater.
I think the jury's in.
No,
guilty.
I've never had any problems.
No, gross. But yeah, I mean, we once saw Owen using his phone at a game, so
we have photographic evidence of that.
Well, that was a photoshopped one that I made.
But
the thing is, there was a photo of him literally using his phone at my Flash Gordon game. So, Owen, I'm calling you out, man. But we couldn't find the photo.
Bollocks.
So, yeah.
We'll get back to you on that one.
Dan Cook, he comes in and he says, use your mic mute when playing online. People can be so mindless about this. I had a guy eating something and all we could hear was a fork and a knife scraping a plate.
I would have said something. I'm like, what is that noise?
Can you stop fucking eating?
Like, I'm eating my dinner. I'd be like, right, well, can you not?
But the mute thing, it's so funny because we were playing an online game recently. Daryl was breathing through his nose and for some reason it kept whistling. So it was like... over and over again. And, it became a meme in the group for a little while where we kept on finding really bad flute sounds on YouTube and then playing them and we were like, Daryl, can you shut your nose up?
Oh, bless him. That's brilliant.
Brent Alt, the famous Brent Alt, the writer of Cyber Sprawl Classics.
Yes.
He comes in, he says, don't cut off or talk over other players /GM.
Good advice.
Good advice, unless you're doing a social scene and you are actually cutting each other off.
That's all part of it.
But if you're just talking about what you're doing, spot on.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, we have Timothy E. Peer, and he says, always wait your turn before talking. This should be obvious, but running games at AFLGS for randoms, I learnt that this was apparently not common sense. Also, don't use your phone unless it's for in-game materials or reasons. I threw a person out of a game for this reason. Okay.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. And you know what? Because I'm a carer, I do have to have my phone on the table, and I will occasionally use it just in case my wife needs something when I'm going home.
Oh,
but the thing is, if you've got no good reason to have your phone out, don't have your fucking phone out.
No, that's right. Yeah.
If you're texting people back, I mean, and shit like this, leave it, mate.
Yeah, it's not that important. It's only
it's not
a couple of hours.
Exactly. And also the one for waiting your turn for playing, for doing stuff, like for saying stuff, right? It's funny because our group's pretty good at that. Nobody takes the spotlight or hogs it too much, but I'm also good at it as a GM for pointing people out. But talking over people, when I played at fucking D&D 5e at the local game store, I had the exact same experience.
Yeah.
We had fucking 3 kids in there and they did nothing but talk over people. And, you had 2 of the players from there and you're whacked in the Wicket game in SavageCon. Right?
Oh, right.
And they're great players.
Yeah, they are.
But the thing is, they got overshadowed when I was playing with them by people constantly fucking nattering over them.
So they didn't get a chance to get involved.
Bless them. This kid called Oscar, I'm calling you out. I know he doesn't listen to this, but he was such a tosser. He kept on just talking about video games he's played and shit like this.
Fuck off and play one then. You're an RPG, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, dear.
Matt Stark also says, I think the most important thing is allowing someone to finish their thoughts /questions /narration without being interrupted by someone else. And yeah, this seems to be like the thing,
Bit of a theme here, isn't there?
Manuel Sams, he says, don't be a dick. Unless you're a giant walking penis, then by all means be a dick, but be a polite dick.
Yeah, fair play. Yeah,
fair enough.
Lewis Pineda says, don't be a dick also, just because it's only a game. Good point.
Yeah, that's a really good one, because a lot of people at the table might do stuff, try and ruin people's fun, like, acting wildly out of character.
And that's not an excuse.
Getting the other characters in trouble and just starting bar fights because they want to fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Things like this, and that is just being a dick. And then a lot of people's excuse for that will be, it's just a game.
Yeah, no. If you want to do shit like that, do that on a computer game by yourself and go cause havoc. If you're playing a communal game where you all have an equal part, don't be a dickhead.
Yeah, and the thing about that is that these games are important to people, and what their characters do are important. They want to get into the world, they want to immerse themselves, and people that do that kind of shit does annoy me. Yeah. This next one is my favourite though. Scott W comes in, he says, pay the fuck attention.
That's a good one.
I don't know who the fuck is or why you should be
pay the fuck. You just pay it attention.
Pay the fuck attention.
That's what he calls himself as a GM. I'm the fuck.
I'm the fuck.
You pay attention to me.
But no, have to agree.
No, totally, Scott. You're right. Yes.
But it starts going to what Owen was saying before. If you're too high,
you're not going to be able to pay attention.
I've seen players.
Seen it happen. Yeah.
And we had a player. I'm not going to name his name, but he was really high. And
higher than an elephant's eye.
Yeah, and you were talking to him and saying something about the world, and then he was so high that he accidentally answered in his character voice, asking Nick what he wanted. And he went, "What do you want?" So pay the fuck attention.
Yes, pay attention, because I don't like especially if you've done this big description and stuff, and then you literally go, right, guys, what do you want to do? And they go, what
do you want? Yeah, then you're just like, mate, what? Like, it does annoy me, and it's like, really pay attention. Otherwise, you're just going to lose out on important shit.
Well, especially because, like, a lot of the time a GM will think to themselves, right, I'm only going to mention this the once. If they pick up on it, then good for them, because they're going to get a wicked item, and then nobody picks up on it.
That's true. Like, especially secret doors in a dungeon. You might go into a dungeon and then be like, so yeah, the walls are mostly cold, except for on the west wall. And then suddenly they see a guy sitting by a fire behind a secret wall. But the thing is that, like, yeah, if you don't pay attention, you're going to miss stuff.
You're going to miss shit. Yeah.
John Steve, he says, understanding is not about you. You're part of a group effort to have fun and create an interesting narrative. I'm all for role-playing, but if your RP decisions force everyone down a destructive or pointless path, then you're only thinking about yourself. And that's pretty much similar to what Luis Pineda says.
Yeah, well done, John. Yeah, you're right.
You're right.
Don't be like obstructive or annoying for the sake of being annoying. It's not fun.
Trouble is, GMs get into that habit though, and I know that I've not getting destructive or annoying, but sort of taking the spotlight often because I'm used to being the one at the game that people need to pay attention to. And suddenly, when you're a player, if you're mostly a GM, you lose a lot of that power, and you lose a lot of knowing what's going on in the world.
That's
and you're eager to investigate every little thing and talk over people. And I've really tried to get better at it, but at least I understand that it is a fault I have because I GM so often.
Of course, but it's just part of the course, isn't it? If you GM all the time, it's going to happen. Go on, Matt. So Matt Jones comes in with a basic one, but I'd say a very important one. Shower and wear deodorant. I mean, I don't understand why anyone would not wear deodorant.
You hear about the Magic Gathering I think it was either Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic the Gathering tournaments. They've made it a rule now that
you can't come if you don't wear deodorant.
Yeah, you can't come if you haven't washed and wear deodorant.
It should be such a basic skill that people have.
I've never understood the people that don't. Like, I've been to cons where the people smell like a fucking garbage dump.
And it's like I know you can smell that because when you've got, say you've been working hard and you whatever, been out all day, you can smell it on yourself straight away and you go, oh, that's a bit nasty.
Then you go home, have a wash, change your top.
Thank God for that. Yeah, well, these people must wake up and go, yes, smelled right, let's go and push this on other people.
You're right, because the thing is, it's like even at fucking dragon meat, right? When I was walking down the line, I smelled BO and I'm like, it's 9 in the morning. It's 9 in the fucking morning. It's not as if you've been working hard all day, you've been sweating it out and now you stink of BO. The thing is you've just got up and you've decided not to wash. What the fuck is wrong with these goblins?
At Savage Con, if it gets really big, maybe we should give out them free little deodorants.
Oh, maybe that would have been handy for the farts. We should
farts, but Savage Con's got more of a fart issue than a deodorant.
It's a fart issue. We should hang. We're doing a bad job of advertising this. We should hang car air fresheners on the ceiling.
Magic trees everywhere.
Yep.
Perfect.
So Peter Adams comes in with one that's very close to your heart, Nick.
Be on time and be present. Yeah, true. It's hard. I'll put my hands up to that one.
Next up, Maite Parton. She says, pay attention to other players' turns. That way, when your turn comes up, you don't waste time deciding what you're going to do. If you're paying attention, you know what you're going to do when your turn is up. Yes, this is something that really fucking winds me up. There are certain players that I've played with over the years that have done this so many times, right? You're part of the battle. You know when your initiative turn is coming up. Yes, something may happen that will change what you want to do on your turn, but have a fucking idea, Because you always get to that player and they just look at their sheet and just go, I don't really know what to do.
Yeah.
It's like maybe because you were texting, or maybe because you weren't paying a fuck attention to all of the other players' actions.
Cool moves, yeah.
Because if you knew what they were doing, you'd know what to do on your turn.
And you could help. You've
got plenty of time between the person saying, I want to set this on fire, and you thinking of your turn, even if your next turn, because they still got a roll.
Totally. And don't fall down that trap of always assuming that you have to fight in a fight. You don't have to attack. Do something different. Do something that helps somebody else.
But if you want a good guide of how to do that, listen to our DCC actual plays.
Yes.
They ran away from 90%
everything.
of the
Just run away, mate. Just run away.
It was funny how many combats in that game you would hit something once and then go, nah, too tough.
Right, we're out of it.
The bit where you nicked that jailer's keys, then just ran past him.
Oh my god,
that was fucking funny.
That was so good.
And we got one last one. Conrad Erasmus Neubert, he says, always RSVP and be honest if you can't make it and don't want to join.
Yeah,
totally. If you've got a legit reason for not being there, as soon as you know, let people know.
Totally.
You're going to be letting people down no matter what.
And we have a nice easy system where we always post a event every week for the game, and then you can put
going or not interested.
Exactly. That hasn't happened yet, but yeah.
Maybe, that's a sign when you're running an absolute shiter. If people start putting maybe on the event
constantly. Right, guys. Thinking of a new idea. Nothing concrete yet. Maybe. Oh shit. Yeah,
guys. I want to run some a full-length 2-year made RPG campaign.
It's sandbox and it's all my own content.
A lot of maybes on that one. So, what's your number one etiquette? What's the thing? What's the thing at the table?
Be considerate. I think be considerate to all that's there, because I would say for me it's like, a lot of people have busy lives these days. It's hard to get together. It's nice when you get together. Everyone, including the players, the GM, the person that's hosting, the person that got the snacks in, whatever. Everyone plays a nice part, and everyone's there because they want to be there. So just be considerate to other people as well. It's not just your game, or it's not just you going to play a game. It's about everybody, and just keep that in mind, I think.
I think mine is probably to give respect to the game. I know that sounds really pretentious, but
no, that's
the
right.
only thing is I've played with the group that we normally play with, right? Because everyone's given a decent amount, it's just kind of blanket thing, decent amount of respect to the game and trying to get into it.
Yeah.
Even if you're not straight away, the thing is you will have a much better time than thinking, this is a bit boring, and just sit back doing nothing.
Before you've even started.
Yeah, and I think that if you respect the person's game, then you tend to have a lot more fun. Respect it, get into it, try your best to immerse yourself, and you'll have a much better time than being that player that sits back, does nothing until combat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, get in the GM's head, try and enjoy what they're trying to give to you and show you this world and stuff. And prime example of that is Made. Like from the blurb, it was a turn off for me, I'm not gonna lie, and hands down after playing it, one of the best games I've ever played.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? I literally got it for a laugh, because I thought this is going to be bad, but
we're doing
this.
Right.
Yeah. But when everyone played it, they got into it as much
fantastic.
as they could, and the archetypes of the different maids were spot on as well.
It was so good. It honestly was. So yeah, perfect example. Don't write a book off before you've tried it.
Yeah, exactly, and don't give respect to players
and the GM, everybody.
Yeah, that's sort of my thing. But
the practice is done. We finally found him, the Dark One, the one we've been practicing for all these years. He's arrived. He thinks he can scare us with some recording device. We're not afraid of you! Still not That lowers your attack points because you're scared!
Well, that's it for another episode, ladies and gentlemen.
That was fun. I hope our little tidbits and our tips help.
Yeah, I hope that if you run a sandbox, let me know how it goes.
Please do.
Let us know if any of the tips that we said actually helped. If it didn't, also let us know and tell us we're fucking idiots.
Yeah, exactly. But, we don't mind.
If you want to contact the show,
yes,
you actually can.
You
exactly, Nick. Exactly what I was thinking.
You certainly can. Yep, you can. So why don't you drop us an email? That's freetrpgpod@gmail.com.
Jamal.com.
Jamal.com.
And you can contact us on Facebook, Twitter, MeWe, not Google Plus anymore. And of course, we've got a Patreon. If you like this junk, then please go over there and donate, because we do work hard on it, despite how it sounds.
And this whole thing is Patreon powered. So
it is the whole thing. Everything that we buy, everything that we run on this show is all because of you guys. So you keep the show going. So that's it for another show. I've been Harrison Hunt.
I've been Nick Lambslice.
And always remember that D20s are cool, but 20Ds, well, that's a good time.
Oh yeah.